Editor. Recently, I stumbled across a truly disgusting thing, a small-town paper. The front page had not one, not two, not just three, but 5 mugshots, and the headline read, "Grand Jury Hands Down Indictments." If you're anything like me, that sounds really, really serious. Most of us lay people don't stop to think about what terms like grand jury and indictment mean. It just sounds like someone majorly stepped in it, and they're getting theirs. Looking back on the front page, I now think it's just a showcasing of the damned, those we are meant to point and jeer at. That's a very strange thing in a country with a mantra of innocent until proven guilty. By the way, indictment just means accused. And when the grand jury indicts, it just means that they're taking a serious look at the case brought up against the accused. There has been no final decision from the court. The thing about that particular front page is that only one of the mugshots had anything to do with actual sentencing. The others are in that innocent until proven guilty group. Are innocent people ever falsely accused? I think most of us who've been to Sunday school should be answering that question with a resounding yes. Joseph spent how many years in prison over a false accusation? Jesus was put to death in a very public and shameful way. That's because a group of jealous people got together and conspired against him. So yes, innocent people are accused and persecuted more times than any of us would like to acknowledge. It makes the world a scary and uncertain place. It could happen to you too. At any given time, you could be accused and charged with things, not formally convicted, just charged, of things you are completely innocent of. Then suddenly, you become the untouchable among people that you live and work with every day. That's a sobering thought. It's also one that will cause me to be careful in passing judgment the next time I see someone scared and sleep-deprived and hauled out for a picture. But why do newspapers include mugshots anyway? Is there any good from it? A recent article written by lawyer Jennifer Ellis, and I'll post the link below, quoted that mugshots can help find people when they've absconded or warn people when someone is out and dangerous. So there is a good reason to share some mugshots. I doubt any of these previously mentioned mugshots had anything to do with dangerous criminals at large. The law about this may soon be changing. Did you know that in 2016 a federal court decided that federal mugshots would no longer be routinely available? In its opinion, this court noticed that a disclosed book photo cast a long, damaging shadow over the depicted individual. Some states passed and are looking to pass laws to prevent the release of mugshots prior to conviction. The reality is that if your picture in a mugshot is out there, regardless of whether or not you were convicted, it can have an unfortunate impact on your life. In the old days, this wasn't much of a problem because it wasn't easy to find mugshots. Now, of course, once it hits the internet, it's forever. The world is changing, and the industry is too. And did you know that some newspapers have decided to drop mugshots from their layouts? The Oregonian, obviously a newspaper out of Oregon, recently published an editorial, and again I'll post the link below, stating that there would be less mugshots in their paper going forward. They cited that research shows that most newspaper readers don't even bother to stop and look at the mugshots, so it's not really something of interest for most of those who read hard copies of newspapers. I suppose if it's overdone, people will stop buying the newspapers altogether. Money could become a factor, and then there's an ethical component as well. When prospective employers check Google and then the first thing they see is that mugshot, it can end all job prospects without further conversation or investigation. An arrest may be noteworthy, but a plea deal several months or even years later gets overlooked, or charges are dropped, or someone is found not guilty. So the damage is done whether they're guilty or not. Going forward, I'd hope to see a lot less people in orange or striped coveralls, publicly flogged in a space that is meant to serve its community, not inflict pain on it. Sincerely, Stephanie Burton and Jennifer Burton Taylor. Oregon Live, July 20th, 2020. Letter from the editor. You won't see as many mugshots of criminal suspects going forward. Jennifer Ellis, July 16, 2019. Why mugshots are made public before a suspect is convicted by the court.
The Birmingham News.
Stephanie Burton. Reply, letter to the editor. Thank you for the email. We do not run mugshots. It is our policy at this paper. And at my former paper, I had a no mugshot policy on the front page, unless the story absolutely required it. I believe we have a responsibility to understand the impact. The inlay is lasting. Again, thanks for your thoughts. Hello, thank you for your letter. Can you let us know where you live, as we generally try to include the city and state of the author of letters to the editor? Also, I'd be interested in knowing which local paper you're referring to. As to having the mugshots, that's not something that our news organization does. And I'm curious as to whether or not it was one of the other local newspapers. Thank you. Michelle Key, Opelika Observer.